Have you ever noticed that you can have a completely light schedule, sleep a full 8 hours, eat relatively well, and still wake up feeling like your brain is running on 5% battery? It's a bizarre, heavy kind of exhaustion. You haven't run a marathon and you haven't been doing hard physical labor, but your mind feels completely drained, wrapped in a thick layer of brain fog. When this happens, we usually blame our bodies. We buy more coffee, try to sleep longer, or assume we're just getting lazy. But psychology reveals a much deeper truth. True mental exhaustion rarely comes from doing too much. More often, it comes from a series of subtle, invisible daily habits that are quietly leaking your energy in the background without you ever realizing it. Let's look at the psychology behind why you're always tired and how to plug the leaks. The first invisible drain is a psychological phenomenon known as the Zeigarnik Effect. Our brains are hardwired to remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks much better than completed ones. When you tell yourself, I need to reply to that email later, or I really should clean that closet this weekend, your brain doesn't just forget about it. It creates what psychologists call an open loop. Think of your brain like a smartphone. Every open loop is an app running in the background. You might be watching a movie or having dinner with a friend, but in the background, your brain's processing power is actively being used to hold on to those unfinished micro tasks. When you accumulate dozens of these open loops throughout the week, your mental RAM gets completely overloaded. You aren't tired because you're working hard, you're tired because your brain is constantly burning energy just trying to remember what you haven't done yet. The second habit is something modern psychology calls continuous partial attention, and it happens during our daily transition moments. Think about what you do when you're waiting for water to boil, sitting in an elevator, or walking to the bathroom. Almost instinctively, we pull out our phones to check a notification, scroll a feed, or read a text. We view this as a harmless way to fill a boring 30-second gap. But your brain requires blank space to reset its nervous system. When you force your mind to process a rapid burst of new visual information during every single micropause of your day, you deny it its natural resting state. Your brain stays in a state of low-grade perpetual alertness, essentially a mild fight-or-flight response. By the time evening arrives, your nervous system has been firing nonstop for 14 hours straight, leaving you emotionally and mentally fried. The third habit is purely emotional, but it carries a massive physical cost: boundary friction. Every time you say yes to a social plan, a work project, or a favor when your entire soul is screaming no, you commit to emotional suppression. Psychologists have found that pretending to be okay, hiding irritation, or constantly people-pleasing requires an immense amount of glucose and mental energy. When you spend your day walking on eggshells, filtering your thoughts to keep everyone else comfortable, you are constantly fighting your own intuition. That internal friction is incredibly taxing. You aren't exhausted by the people around you. You are exhausted by the heavy armor you are forced to wear just to interact with them. So, how do we stop the leaks? You don't need a radical lifestyle overhaul. You just need to close the loops and protect the gaps. First, practice the brain dump. If you feel overwhelmed, stop trying to remember everything. Write every single tiny task down on paper. The moment your brain sees it safely recorded outside of your head, the Zeigarnik effect stops, and the background apps close. Second, reclaim your transition moments. The next time you're waiting in line or riding an elevator, resist the urge to look at your phone. Let your eyes wander. Let your mind be bored for 60 seconds. Give your nervous system permission to drop back down to baseline. Your energy isn't gone, it's just being misallocated. Stop letting the world drain you in secret. Your peace is worth protecting. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me down this psychological rabbit hole today. If you're struggling with this chronic tiredness yourself, let's talk about it in the comments below. Until next time, protect your peace.